Alright, it's pretty cold in the shop today, so trying my best to keep the heat in. What we're going to do today is mount a rear bumper on this guy. I'm probably going to be using the Arcdroid quite a bit. This isn't really a review of it, but honestly I'm so impressed with it that, it's just going to kind of merge together. And yeah, let's get working. At this point, it's not really that important that I get it square, because I'm making two sets of brackets out of one template. So what we can do is square it off the frame. There might be some minor adjustment. Who knows how straight this old frame is and how straight this old bumper is, but it should get us really, really close. So what I did, this thing's been pretty cut up. This is going to be a little bit hard to see, but you can kind of see it's going to hug the frame, go around the tailgate area, go up, and then we're going to go through the factory bumper bracket bolts. I don't have a set of bumper bolts, so we'll probably just throw a nut and bolt in there for now. But yeah, we might make a filler panel in here just to kind of close it up and, just kind of finish it. But yeah, I think this will be all right. Can't remember exactly what this bumper's off of. It's something from the 40s, probably a 40 Ford or something. This thing is kind of a mix of old hot rod parts and stuff, and I think this will be good. So we've got our bracket, we've got our Arcdroid. Let's see what we can do here. All right, so we have some 3/16 flat stock here, or sorry, plate steel. And although you don't necessarily need it, I still kind of recommend people learn some of the CAD stuff. I've been able to make some more intricate stuff with it. But for brackets like this, that are pretty basic, we've got like one hole, and honestly, the rest isn't going to take that long. I try to get the most out of this stuff as far as I can anyway. What we're going to do is basically, this is going to be impossible to do one-handed, so I'll probably switch to the tripod. But what we're going to do is we're going to chase this bracket, and then we're going to save the design so that we can make multiple of them. And it's pretty easy to do with this. What we got here, this is the actual gantry arm that the plasma will go onto. But for now we have this pen, and what this pen lets us do is go to the corners, trace around edges, locate where bolt holes are going to be, and it basically draws its own G-code in real time, which is really amazing. There's been several companies who've came out with like a pen like this that writes G-code that has nothing to do with the plasma, and that alone can be thousands of dollars. The fact that this is just included with this thing is amazing. My stand here is just a pretty generic one. You can get them on Amazon. I got like an Amazon Plasma. And I have the XL table. I currently don't have it hooked up because this table's actually not wide enough to use the full range of that. This guy can slide side to side, and it can cut almost 4 feet wide. Nothing I'm making really needs to be that wide, at least not yet. I've punched out some other brackets that are currently on the truck, but let's get started here. I'm going to switch this to this tripod. So I tried to set this up so that you guys can watch, and you can also watch me make this over here. This screen I just got like a cheapy, just laptop stand, computer desk screen. It's a pretty universal deal, but it works really well for not having to hold this. So you can see, I already did the bolt hole here. You always want to start with whatever you want to cut first. So if you're doing a bunch of bolt holes for a bracket that you want to bolt on, you want to do all the holes first, and then you want to cut whatever is going to be cut on the outside to actually finish that part. So, with any luck, you guys will see this happen in kind of real time. You can do this really quick. I still really recommend people get something like Fusion or SolidWorks or something like that. This will get you really close as far as accuracy, but you're never going to do like as crazy of stuff with this as you are with an actual computer. If you're cutting just simple brackets and stuff and not anything too organic, this works really well. So what we're going to do, we're going to line up on our first corner here. Now you can just click the corners. Sometimes it's really hard to cut cardboard and stuff like that super accurately, but I find if as long as your corners are square, you can click along those corners and you're going to get really close. What we can do, I'm going to click right before this curve starts, and then while we're going around this radius, I'm just going to click every quarter inch or so. You're never going to be able to hold this button down and go around a smooth radius and actually have it looking right. It's really hard to do that. The kerf on this machine is so wide that these little stops and starts, where they're just like little quarter-inch straight lines in a radius, you're barely going to be able to see that. If it's really, really important that a curve is super, super smooth, that's where definitely designing something on a computer is infinitely better than using this pen. But I've seen companies just try to put out a pen like this that writes G-code for you, and some of them alone can be thousands of dollars. So the fact that this machine even has this option is pretty incredible for its price point. Again, I am not sponsored by them, but whenever I have a piece of information that other people don't have, I try my best to share it, because to me, if I was thinking about spending a couple of grand on something like this, I would kind of want to know people's honest opinion who actually purchased it versus, the people who are just gifted one and they kind of have to say it's good. I'm saying this is pretty good, and, learning the CAD is definitely the hard part. But again, if you're building simple stuff, you're building mud trucks or hot rods or whatever, you can get by with just this pen tool. Again, if you're trying to do something exotic, you're going to have to put the time in. So hopefully, I can't see the screen yet, but we should have our part. And we do. So what we can do now, you can kind of see in this radius here, you can't really see those straight lines super well. We've still got a pretty straight radius, which is really nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to save it. You need a USB, obviously, to save anything. You can cut things one at a time and not save them. But to me, this is sort of the best part of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to exit. And now we're on our main screen here. Let me tip you to the side here a bit. So I'm looking at the screen now. It took less than 4 minutes to design this part. I would argue that nobody could hand cut anything even close to this and clean up the edges and whatnot. This thing just saves so much time. So what we can do now is we can do a test run. I don't have the plasma hooked up right now. It just has that. So we can now test it, and we can actually see it cutting our part, which is pretty cool to watch, I'm not gonna lie. The fact that your average Joe can even get something in a shop like this nowadays is pretty remarkable. You can see, it follows so close. The accuracy on this is amazing. So, I'm not going to spend too much time. I'm not going to make you watch all of that. But, obviously we're watching it pan on here as well. The fact that you don't have to have a laptop, I have terrible Wi-Fi out in the shop. I have a laptop that I design stuff on, but as soon as you bring it out here, if you have to make any changes or anything, I have to go back into the house, make the changes, come back out to the shop. This is fully touchscreen. It's all one unit. I can move this thing around the shop pretty easy, and I can even unscrew it and just put this thing on a set of sawhorses, and it's super portable. So let's let this cut this out, and we'll be back in a moment. All right, so this is super easy. It just has these two little locking pieces. You put the plasma head back on it, you can do a test run, shut the plasma off, run, just to make sure that, you know, if you're cutting between other cuts and stuff like that, you want to make sure that you're actually got enough room around this thing. I try to not waste material, so all these little areas and stuff will become other tabs. I cut my own washers the other day. I try to use this stuff up as much as I can. Metal's not cheap anymore. But we can make sure that our test pass is going to work okay and our cut height looks okay. You can move the plate around pretty easy, obviously. I've also, it's not very easy to get it flat, but a couple of sawhorses, you can clamp this down to your metal. And you know, as long as you have 110 and you can run a plasma, you know, obviously you can't cut too thick, but like, it's very portable. So, it looks like we're almost back to the beginning here. Everything looks okay. So we'll let this finish up here, and then we're going to cut our real part. And almost done. There we go. Okay. So, we're going to turn our plasma back on, hit run. We're going to watch it do all the work. Now, that's pretty good. Not a lot of slag. I'm still kind of tuning it a bit. I don't have my corners perfectly 90. But honestly, really, really close. The best part is, we now have a bracket, obviously. But the best part is, I can now just, you know, move this plate around, re-zero it, you know, maybe to here, cut out my second one, and every time I cut this, it's going to be exactly the same. So when I am putting it up under this bumper here, I can cut the parts out the same, I can mount them in the same places on the frame, they're going to go through the same bolt holes, and it should be really easy to make sure that this is all square and level. If you're cutting this stuff by hand, you can get it really good if you spend some time, but you know, this video, I think it took less than 1 minute to cut that. I don't think you could do it. So I'm gonna cut the second one here and we'll see how we did. This is fitting really, really good. I think I'm gonna cut out a bracket. One, I wanna support this bumper more, but also it'll just kind of fill that space a little bit. If we go underneath, I gotta clean up some paint and whatnot, but I think this is gonna work really well. I bent the brackets so I could nut and bolt it. And I think we're gonna be in some pretty good shape here. So obviously when you're making stuff that was never meant to go together, there's always gonna be some stuff that you gotta kind of figure out. But you can do this stuff really fast, especially with something like this. So yeah, I'm gonna figure out some kind of a filler piece here. It'll kind of act as a gusset, and it'll just kind of stiffen things up. Somebody steps on the bumper and whatnot. Square it up, clean it up, weld it up, and we will have a bumper. Oh yeah. So, definitely still got to make a piece here. Not exactly sure what I want yet, to be honest. But, yeah. For now, I'm going to think about it. But we have a bumper, which is pretty exciting.